Today, as we continue our travel through Gorgan, we are walking along one of the most beautiful streets in Iran, a place where people come to breathe, to slow down, and to borrow a little peace for the forest. And somewhere hidden between these branches, there is a story about an old man, a story people here still share quietly, almost like a secret passed from one heart to another. The closer we get, the more you'll feel why this story stayed alive for so long. So let's begin this journey together, because when we reach that moment when the forest finally brings his voice back to us, you might see time differently. You might feel life differently. And maybe, just maybe, something inside you will shift in a way you remember. Nahal has always been a resting point. For generations, travelers coming up from Estarabad would reach this exact spot right around lunchtime. They'd stop here, spread out their food, rest under the shade, and let the cool forest wash the fatigue off their shoulders. And because people always arrived here at noon, the place became known as Nahal, the spot where lunch was taken. Even today, it still carries that same feeling, a gentle break from anyone who arrives a little tired. And today, as we walk, we are looking for a small legend, a story people still whisper about, quietly, almost shyly, the kind of thing you share only with a friend while pouring tea. We'll reach the story soon. But before anything else, I want to show you something. I want you to see how close we are at the forest. In fact, this isn't close at all. This is the forest. Before we go deeper, these tall cypress trees are worth a moment. In our literature, the cypress has always stood for dignity, endurance, and a quiet kind of strength. It appears in poetry the same way mountains appear in a landscape, naturally, inevitably. Walking under these trees feels like walking beneath something ancient and proud. Here in Nar Khoran, the path has never been just a path. For centuries, people have passed through these forests the same way we do now, carrying their hopes, their worries, their everyday stories. And if you listen closely, you can almost feel those moments layered in the air. The echoes of travelers resting under these trees, the rhythm of footsteps that once shaped these routes, the quiet conversations carried away by the wind. Walking here is a little like stepping into their memories, a soft reminder that long before us, life was already moving through this place with its own heartbeat. And look at this, right behind these, you're seeing the real Hyrkanian forest, a protected woodland that UNESCO has declared a World Heritage Site, one of the oldest surviving forests on Earth. A forest that stayed alive through the Ice Age and helped Europe grow green again afterward. And if you want to know why UNESCO declared these forests a World Heritage Site, and how these forests help Europe become green again, make sure to watch episode 6. We talked about all of these there in detail. As we keep walking deeper into these trees, something shifts. The forest turns quieter, almost as if it wants to prepare us for an old memory, one that hasn't been told in full for a very long time. You know, every forest has a story, but this one has a story about a man who understood something most of us spend our whole life trying to learn. And that's where we've headed now. People still whisper about him, not as a hero, not as a saint, just as a man who somehow learned how to live with an open heart. Some say he was running from heartbreak so deep it shattered the life he had. Some say he simply walked away from everything, money, comfort, plans, and let the forest rebuild him piece by piece. Whatever the truth was, he became part of this jungle, and this place became part of him. They called him Amuchayriz, Uncle Tea Pourer, not because tea was special, but because his presence was. He lived simply. No real home, no fixed income, no expectations, just a little kettle, a handful of leaves, and a heart that had stopped trying to control life. People say after that heartbreak, the one that changed him, he made a promise to himself to live in the moment he had, not the moments he lost. And somehow that made him free. He walked these paths every morning, greeting strangers as if he'd known them forever. He listened without judging. He helped without asking. He lived without greeting. Maybe that's why people loved him. Maybe that's why his story stayed alive. Because in a world where everyone is rushing towards something, he was the one man who finally slowed down. They say the Uncle Tea Pourer lived in the moment because life had once taken everything from him. And maybe that's why his story still matters. Because whether we admit it or not, time is moving for all of us, quietly, constantly. So let me ask you something, not as a guide, not as a storyteller, just as another human walking next to you. Have you ever imagined yourself 50 years from now? Not in a dream, not in a hopeful plan, but in a hospital room. Your body tired, your breath thin, machines doing what your lungs no longer can. Memories drifting in and out like weak signals on an old radio. You are there with everything you lived through, the victories, the losers, the people you loved, the mistakes you made, the days you wasted, the days you fought for. And in that quiet room, you're not trying to stay longer. You're not bargaining anymore. You're just there, watching the last light of your life settle gently on the wall. Then, one moment, just one, a thin line of light passes the window, and for no clear reason, it pulls you in, not away from life, but back through it. Back through 50 years of choices, tears, laughter, work, noise. Back to this moment, this walk, this breath, this exact second in your life. And suddenly you understand, life just gave you one more chance, one more day, one more moment to live the way you always wished you did. And if that future version of you could speak, if the you on that hospital bed had just one thing to tell the you standing here today, it would be this. Live now, fully. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for a sign. Don't wait for the world to make sense, because it won't. It never has. But moments, these small, ordinary moments, they are the only things that ever truly belong to us. And here it is, the statue of Uncle Tea Pourer, the man whose story has been quietly following us through this whole walk. So in this journey, after all the steps, all the trees, all the memories we've walked through, we finally arrived here, at a place where his story turns into something you can see, something you can touch, something that reminds us life is fragile, time is short. And we're lucky, unbelievably lucky, to still be here, breathing, moving, living. This statue is just a reminder, a small way of saying don't forget to live while life is still yours. And maybe after knowing the story of Uncle Tripura, even a simple cup of tea tastes different. The bitterness of coffee feels sharper, almost like it might be the last time we feel its warmth. So we pay a little more attention, enjoy it a little more. When a single grape bursts in our mouth, its sweetness hits us like a small explosion, reminding us that these tiny moments are not tiny at all. We touch everything more fully, we enjoy our time more honestly, and we worry a little less about what might happen tomorrow. We travel more, we connect more, because maybe every person we meet has something to touch us, something to give, something we can carry with us.